Let's talk about Tesla because we have Danielle who has been really looking at Tesla. And Tesla, in a way, I'm a fan of Tesla. I think it's cool that they made EVs work. And if you look at the return that was achieved coming out of 2019 and looking at their height, this is what made Elon Musk the richest guy in the world. But it's a car company, and car companies are just not that desirable. When we go over my desirability quadrant, right, which is this guy, they're not very desirable. When we look at Tesla, it's a car company. I put them like in the gray because they're just, you got to compete against Mercedes-Benz. They've been around for 100 years. Toyota, they've been around forever, and they're excellent. Toyota cars are great. You have Ford here in the US, and then you have China that's beginning to manufacture electric vehicles. China's going to come out with cars. They're selling them in Latin America. And like when you buy a Tesla here in the United States, you're spending upwards of $40,000. And China's coming out with cars that are arguably close to as good as a Tesla, and they can sell them for $10,000. So that's the competition that Tesla has ahead of it. Don't know how they're going to operate around that. So Tesla's working, and it's my observation, I could be wrong, but Tesla's working to try to have political influence in the US, so that they put some big tariffs on EVs that are coming from China, which is good for Tesla, but bad for the consumer, because who wouldn't want to buy a $10,000 reliable EV here in the United States? I know I would, and they're buying them down in Mexico. So people are going to quickly realize, wait, why the heck are we paying $40,000 for an EV when we can be paying $10,000 for a Chinese one? And China's coming on strong. So that's the biggest threat to Tesla. And as you look at their revenue, the revenue has been in the red for one quarter. It's really slow, but their stock is priced as a growth stock. Well, this isn't growth. This is like for the trailing 12 months, 1.37% growth. They've been having to cut their prices on their cars because of that competition. That's why I kind of try to think this way. I want companies in the green. They don't have competition. They don't have people, companies joining that industry and competing on price and bringing down profit and getting rid of cash flow. Tesla is clearly here. With China coming into the market, they may end up being kind of undesirable really fast, because if they're making a $40,000 car that is being sold by $10,000 by a competitor, it makes it very hard to make a lot of money, because the consumer, especially around such a big purchase, is going to be smart enough to say, hey, I'd rather buy the other car that's going to be less expensive by a big margin. Their cash flow isn't very good. $1.7 billion of free cash flow on the trailing 12 months. See how all that competition is really eroding their cash flow. They had a high point in 22, but that's when other car companies had supply chain issues. They didn't have as many issues. And ever since then, the company's just been on a spiral. So their cash flow's going down substantially. It's a $200 stock. I think the company, and I'll give you my updated analysis there. So I think Tesla's priced at a premium of 81%. That's a huge premium. And I'm being very, very generous on their cash flow. I showed you that their trailing 12 months of cash flow is 1.7 billion. I'm giving them 2023 numbers plus some growth rate. It's just, I don't see how this company is going to ever line up with their valuation. And the competition keeps getting worse and worse for Tesla. Now they come out, they have what I consider is a celebrity CEO. A celebrity CEO that when he talks, boy, the stock just takes off. But one of the stories he's told is, we're going to do autonomous driving, self-driving cars. Now, there's another company that's way ahead of them, and that's Alphabet Google. That's a very formidable opponent. And they've been trying to get autonomous cars. They successfully have done so in major cities, but it hasn't gone up to scale where they're doing it nationwide. It's been a very big investment for Alphabet, and they've had to deal with, working with governments and so forth. And I think Tesla has a lot of work ahead of them if they want to be in that market. So we'll see if it's not going to be quick. Like they're going to do it next year. They could say we're going to start and then be done in 5 to 10 years, which investors are not going to wait that long to see the result on that type of business. So overall, this is where I stand on Tesla. It's a stock that, depending on where we're at, I might short, but be careful with stocks like these because they have a rock star celebrity CEO that when he speaks, the stock rallies. They had a rally recently of 45%, but then the stock's been tanking. It was down 17% very quickly. So, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong stock. Not sure why I was looking at that one. I think it's worse here. So 1 year. So here's where Elon Musk, started to tell stories about how great the future is. It went up 45%, and then it dropped. Probably around the time when Danielle started publishing his thesis on shorting Tesla. I don't know if you've tracked that, Danielle, of like when you started to write that, what was the stock price? But it's dropped 27% very quickly, which is amazing. Danielle, you have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Victor, for going to the Tesla. As from my perspective, let's just give my perspective on the stock and how I trade. Usually, I hold my trade for 2-3 months, and I'm like a swing trader. Uh, Looking at the stock, I have some questions about like their FSD because they are very big on it, and they say they are a data company. They have this thing called robotaxi, and also you said that they have like a celebrity CEO. In some perspective, doesn't it favor them? Because if you have a celebrity CEO, that means that you have a great space for marketing because he has a platform, and then he has a lot of followers, and then a lot of the followers believe in him. Then at some point it just favors you. So what do you think about like the robotaxi, their FSD, and also they have this project called the humanoid robot, and they say they will be very productive in the future. So does this make the stock a buy like for the future in like 5 to 6 years of time? So what do you think about that?
Yeah, thank you. Let's get into that. So I think you had like 3 or 4 parts to the question, which is a good one. So first, you have a celebrity CEO, and you're right that a celebrity CEO could get more attention to the company, and I would acknowledge that's favorable. But as I read books and I read up on Warren Buffett does not make the management team a part of his investing criteria because he believes that a good business is a good business. It doesn't matter which management team is running it. I'll give you an example. If you have YouTube, everybody's on YouTube right now is owned by Google, Alphabet. These businesses, it doesn't matter who the CEO is. They generate so much money from advertising primarily, and they generate so much free cash flow. It's a valuable business. If the CEO of Alphabet had a reason to leave the company and they were replaced by somebody else, a professional CEO, Alphabet would be fine. If Tesla is, now let's look at the business. I talked about the car business, the automotive business, right? And I said that it was 81% priced at a premium. If they lose their celebrity CEO, the company's going to collapse. And we're not buying stock in Elon Musk Incorporated. We're buying it in Tesla. And that's where, I do not value a company based on a personality, a CEO. So that's one piece, right? Is I don't value Tesla based on the fact that Elon Musk is a celebrity. Looking at their self-driving cars, their robotaxi. This is the company that Alphabet owns. And these are real life cars. They're in Los Angeles. I haven't taken a ride on one, but I've been driving and they're next to me. It's pretty impressive. They've been working on this for more than 10 years. So Elon Musk can say it every day, but you got to show me your Tesla cars that are driving the streets of Los Angeles, New York, Atlanta, because you're not going to get there until you really get your cars in the field like this. And FYI, they've been having these self-driving cars. They started in Phoenix, and they started like 10 years ago, and they've been refining it and making it better and making it better. And also the data set that's important is they've been very safe. Okay. So it's one thing to say it like a celebrity CEO says it and the market reacts. Oh, it's going to be a robo-taxi business. Well, this business is really difficult to set up. You think governments are going to be like, oh yeah, you're Tesla, no problem. You're going to have cars driving our streets, potentially running over people. And we're not going to have any oversight. Absolutely not. Those governments are going to be wanting, hey, Waymo's put all this time, energy, studying, making their cars safe. Show me what you've done. And they can't say, oh, we thought about it and we're really smart. They have to show real life. Okay, show me that the car has driven the streets for years, and then I'll let you get the general public in one of those cars. So it's just going to take a long time. And that's where investors are going to be impatient. Investors will buy into an idea, but then they have to start seeing results. At some point, I think what is also going to be a risk factor for Tesla is that their CEO at times could be quite, you could say, really radical things, really upsetting things. And that could be a big risk factor for Tesla. So I think that, the whole story of robo-taxis, it's a story they want to tell because the company's doing so poorly. They're losing so much freaking money in the car business that they have to deflect the attention and say, hey guys, don't look at our revenue, lack of revenue growth. We're going to be a lot bigger when we're a robo-taxi company. We're a data company. It's like, well, maybe, but this is really poor compared to your competition, which is Goog. And we look at this stock, consistent growth. And this is much larger, much more profitable. We look at cash flow. This is a valuable company. $60 billion of cash versus 1.7. And they've been making big bets, one of them being the self-driving robo-taxi business. So overall, I just think, I always begin by saying, the stock price is not the company is not the stock price, two different things. And Tesla has built a really good EV business, but the stock price is nowhere near where it should be. Fair guy.
Hey, hi. I am not a Tesla investor, but I do hold stocks in Google. But quick question about the robotaxi. They have massive amounts of data that they use to use for their autopilot. So they do have real life data, right? The other thing is, what do you think about Tesla's battery business? Yeah.
Yeah. So good question. So two parts there, right? What do I think about the data that Tesla has since they have their cars so connected in their computers? I agree that they have a lot of data, but back to Waymo, I don't think anybody's going to argue with me that Google has a lot of data. Like Google Maps is, I think, the most popular mapping software that gives, lane by lane, turn by turn directions. And you can have all the data in the world, but did you design your car with the right camera setup? You can see all the equipment on this car. You see the equipment on the roof there. All this equipment has to be designed, engineered, tested, and then you have to have a real life data set of the device, the machine, the car driving these streets. I like the images that Waymo puts out here because these cars are driving themselves, and there's people, there's children walking crosswalks, maybe even walking across the street very suddenly. Well, Tesla will have to prove that their car is going to be safe under those conditions. And they can't just say, we're really smart, we have a lot of data, trust us. No, government's going to be like, no. We've made Waymo test their cars for 10 years plus. We're going to make you test for a long period of time because we're not going to release a self-driving car, a robotaxi, and it's going to be a long process for them. And they have a huge competitor in Google who is not intending on operating robotaxis and so forth. They intend on selling the platform and technology to companies like Uber, and Uber would take over. And Uber has a lot of data, wouldn't you say? Then Uber, using the Waymo technology, can really go to town. In China, back to China, China has self-driving cars, and they're driving around different parts, different cities of China. That's going to be a competitor globally. In the US, it might be Tesla, Google, maybe a couple others. But globally, if China can prove that their cars are really safe, they could sell them to other parts of the world. So I think the buying into the Tesla story that involves robotaxis, it's just not adding up to me. They have really strong competitors that are ahead of them, substantially ahead of them. And I think they're going to have a hard time there. So you asked about robotaxi and you talked about data. I agree they have data, but they're not their competitors have lots of data too. It's not that Tesla has a monopoly on the data set. Nope. Waymo has data and they're connected to Google. Google has tons of data. And then you have Uber. Well, Uber's got tons of data. Talk about knowing what routes are most popular in the world. Who would know that better than Uber? Who would know the robotaxi better than Uber? I'm an investor in Uber, by the way, and I believe that Uber has a future in robo-taxis. They're not going to create the robo-taxi. They're not going to create the technology. They just have the right platform to then partner or buy the Waymo platform or whatever other platform is the best, and then collectively make lots of money by using this technology in their platform. So that's how I see it. So I think our friends at Tesla have really strong competitors that they're going to have to deal with. I don't see how they're going to have a clear path, kind of a completely fertile market for them to dominate. Nope. You got other competitors that are there that are actually ahead of you. So good question. What do you think, fair guy? I'm open to, if you see it a different way, please share it. And this is completely safe zone. That's how I see it, but I'm sure that I'm going to make mistakes along the way.
What do you think about the battery business? And the other question I want to follow up with the answer you gave. I mean, I'm not trying to argue anything, but this is just a conversation that we are having. So the follow-up question that I have about Tesla's data is, Tesla has tons of data. Even when compared to Google, their data set is much bigger because they have a fleet of nearly millions of cars on the road. And how do you compare them? And also, what do you think about their business of selling their data sets to train other companies' cars? I don't know if they're doing it now, but maybe in the future, that's a prospective way.
It could be. Yeah, it could be. So I think there was a couple parts to that. Is first, so their cars have been driving around, everywhere, which I agree. Now, could they sell that data to other companies? Potentially. Yeah, potentially. But I just don't know on that piece. I don't know. I don't know how other companies would be buying that data set and depending on that data. And I think the other part of your question is the batteries, right? So I have solar panels on my home. We got them in 2022, and the solar panels are really, really advanced. It's great. We're generating all the power we need. We save like $150 a month or so. Now we looked into batteries. We looked at the Tesla battery set, and we could have bought what was at that time about a $7,000 to $10,000 battery to store power and then use it, right? Because you're kind of using it at night. It didn't make any financial sense because at night we don't use a lot of power. And second, at night, the power company here where I live, the rates go down. They charge you very little at night. In the daytime is when they charge you a lot because that's when everybody else is awake and using power. So there's a lot more demand on their utilities. Now, the battery is going to help me at night when the power is really cheap and I don't use much of it because I'm asleep. And so the return on investment wasn't there. It was just like, it's not a very good, if it would have been $1,000, maybe $2,000, I would have bought it. But
hey, sorry to interrupt. I was talking about the battery business for electric vehicles.
Okay. Yeah. So I think Tesla vehicles are probably the best designed, engineered cars, for EVs. I agree with that. That could be a business that they sell that component to other cars. Most definitely. Yeah, that could be a business. I don't know how big it would be, but that could definitely be a business.
Yep. I'm not an investor myself, but I'm just thinking out loud. Thanks for the discussion.
Yeah, I really appreciate you thinking of those things because, again, I'm making some pretty bold, comments on Tesla. I've recorded videos, by the way, and what I'm saying is in those videos. It's not like something I woke up 2 days ago and said, "Hey, I don't like Tesla anymore." And that's how I view it. We'll see where the stock goes. Obviously, the market at times has really agreed with my comments, and it's been a super volatile stock, man. I don't know where it's going to go from here. I'd be afraid to short it because, Elon Musk can wake up tomorrow and say, "Hey, I found the cure to cancer," and the stock will double in value, and people will actually believe it, and then it'll be like, "Oh my God, how can people believe that?" He's not even a life sciences scientist, but just as a completely make-believe example, if he said something like that, the stock would just rally.
Yeah, I agree. I don't hold any stocks myself. As I said, it's just a discussion and I wanted to post my questions. Thanks.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for doing so. So,